So today we are going to talk about how the animal rights movement is a giant scam and how they are mass manipulating the public into thinking some things that are not going to be very good for the future of animals. And I'm not just talking about the future of exotic animals because that's my expertise. This is what we usually talk about here on my station. We're going to talk about how it is going to be bad for you and the future of you being able to have a dog or a cat. Now let's talk about how the main purpose of animal rights organizations, what their end goal is. So I'm going to tell you about the ideology behind animal rights movement and kind of why they have done a great job of manipulating the public and holding a narrative. And it's that's exactly how you manipulate the public is you change terminology and then you hold a narrative and you get people to think a certain thing through manipulation. I know, I hear you. Can you guys hear her when she rumbles like that? Because she's talking to me right now. She's in this conversation with me. She's ready to tell you guys the whole story. Okay, so animal rights organizations, and I can't say their names because when I do, I get a letter from their lawyers. They're very high paid lawyers that we don't have money to fight, right? So I'm very careful on how I word this because I know I don't want to become a giant target for them. So their main goal, their end goal, and I know that they post that they're for dogs and cats and saving them, but they don't. They euthanize 98% of the dogs and cats they so-called save. They also are against any pet ownership, all pet ownership as a whole, right? They won't say it right out loud. They'll talk about pets and how they want to take care of them, but they are completely against any form of breeding animals in captive care. They're against breeding dogs. They're against breeding cats. They're against breeding horses, pigs, chickens. They're against breeding elephants, even though we could bring certain species back from the brink of extinction. They're against breeding anything in captivity, right? They're against zoos and aquariums, and they're against meat consumption. And I'm going to say it again. They're against any form of pet ownership. That is including your dog and cat. But how are they going to get the masses to back them up on this? They can't come out and say this because this is an extreme mindset, right? It's an extreme ideology. So how would they get you guys to follow? Well, they do it through changing the wording of how they portray things and through getting you to hate things that you might not or should not hate. We're going to start with dogs, okay? Because you guys can relate to dogs. How are they going to get you to be against breeding dogs? I've got it. We will label all dog breeders as puppy mills, right? It doesn't matter if they're licensed and regulated by the government. No, we're going to name them all puppy mills. And if we can call them all puppy mills, we all have an idea of a puppy mill, right? And the second we have that idea, we immediately judge whether we have the facts or not because we hate the idea of a puppy mill. So we're ready to back up anything. You can read an article and the second they say the term puppy mill, we're against it. Okay, so first off, we're going to hate breeders. Check, right? Then we're going to encourage people to just adopt dogs. That's what we called it when I was younger. We called it adopting a dog. Now we're going to change the terminology and say it is a rescue. And you rescue that dog and you are morally superior to other people because you rescued a dog, right? And trust me, people really hold on to this. So now we have changed it. You rescue a dog, you're good. You buy a dog, you're bad. Breeders are bad. Now we're going to keep going with this, right? And this is actually working, okay, guys? Because I watch when people post about their puppies that they bought, they get in the comments people saying you should have adopted a dog or you should have rescued a dog. So many dogs need to be rescued. And that is true, you guys. I'm all for rescuing dogs, but I'm also for buying a dog if you want a specific breed. Both those things should be available to us and they shouldn't be denigrated on either scale, right? However, that's exactly what's happening in mass scale, okay? Now, again, if we were to just adopt dogs from a shelter or rescue them from a shelter, they all come spayed and neutered. So where is the future of dogs if that's what we were to do? If we were all to just adopt this idea and say we're just rescuing dogs and that is it, then there would be no dogs in the future. See how that worked? Do you see how you change the terminology, the narrative, and you've got people to do something that they didn't really think about because you're not thinking about this three-dimensionally. You were thinking about this with your emotions and immediately triggered, immediately satisfied, and that is how you get the masses to change, and that is what's going on. Now, they do this to us at a massive scale when it comes to exotics. It's easier for them to attack people like me because you don't have an elephant, you don't understand elephants and exotic animals, so it's easy for you to believe what you've been told by multi-million-dollar organizations, right? So what they do with us is when we're a privately owned facility, or let's say a privately owned zoo, they slap the term roadside zoo on the facility. It doesn't matter that we follow the same regulations and the same things that every other zoo does because we're all licensed and regulated by the US government. No, if you can slap the word roadside zoo, then we all get this mental image of what a roadside zoo looks like, and then we're immediately against that. So the articles can come out, oh, roadside zoo did blah, 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 blah. And instead of looking into it, we are immediate to judge. We're ready to judge. And this is how it works. I'm talking about this because it is getting so imbalanced in the world, and that I feel like my platform should be a place of balance and should be a place that we talk about how everything has its place. Adopting a dog has its place, or rescuing it has its place, and it's so important. But also keeping certain breeds of dogs around is also very important, you guys. I love dogs. I love specific breeds. I love mutts. I love all animals. But I don't think that we should be just only rescuing dogs because there will be no future of them. And that's kind of how this works. And I hope this helped you to understand how they're mass manipulating the public and how they're pulling at your emotions. So when you see something that jars your emotion or gets you in the feels, double check it, calm yourself, and think about it rationally. And I'm going to make more videos about this subject because there's a lot more to it than just this, but I wanted to make one talking about dogs because you can understand dogs. You guys know about dogs, and I just hope this helps balance out the playing field of how this works.